Welcome to another episode of the 792 Floor Sports Podcast. I am Hunter Williams and joined by a special guest from Jacksonville, 904 Johnson Sports, and you can follow him at that handle on Twitter.
It's good to be back, Hunter.
All right. And before we go into some of the other topics that we had planned, we did have a bit of a breaking news that came a few days ago, and which was back on Sunday, actually. With five-star Booker T. Washington receiver who's committed to Alabama, Jacoby Brooks, transferring out of Booker, the defending state champions Booker T, and he's heading to IMG Academy, which, honestly, a lot of people are probably surprised by this. I honestly am not, because when I look at Miami-Dade right now, and this will probably a topic we'll hit on a little bit later in the show, it's really uncertain if we're even going to see a football season to begin with, much less in Dade County, which has well over 20,000 cases, which by far exceeds any in the state. If they don't get things under control, I could definitely see a possibility of Dade County not even having a football season, which could potentially lead to more exits towards more of the academy schools because they'll give them opportunity to play.
Yeah. That's just some big news right there. Going to the whole coronavirus thing. Miami, I think, I think they're the biggest city. They got all bigger cities in the whole state of Florida. They have the most coronavirus cases, and for them being one of the biggest cities, I think, in the country as well, with population, it's insane just to see it, and the potential that they won't even have a football season, because there's other major cities like Jacksonville and Tampa who are not as bad, which they still have a possibility of having their seasons. But I don't blame some of these kids wanting to move to other different areas just because of it.
And another thing, when I think about it, the schools, like, if you're at a Miami Central or Miami Northwestern or Booker T, you still have to go by the FCA rules on opening. They'll have to make the call whether to open the season. IMG Academy, they are FSA independent. They don't need the FSA to approve them to play a season. They could play on their own. So IMG's not going to be in the same situation as most teams in the state when it comes to being able to start their season.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And on the side of it, for talent-wise, this could end up, if this keeps up, IMG might have their most loaded roster ever based on just players transferring there just to get a chance to play.
Yep, and I know to some of those kids, I'm sure they'd rather play a game or play a whole season, than not have a season at all, because, you got colleges that still want to look at them too, or they want to still be looked at.
And in terms of other big news that came out a few days ago, which actually I did talk about a bit on the last podcast, because it actually came out about 2 hours before I recorded the last show. Mendez hiring the former Bishop Gorman head coach and former state champion as well to be their new coach. Obviously, it's a different situation because Mendez being a public school versus Bishop Gorman being a private school that basically was recruiting all of Nevada and even picking up players out of California and I believe Arizona at some point. So they're definitely in a different situation, but I gotta think eventually that if shows that he can build something at Mendez, players from the local surrounding counties are going to be wanting to start moving over there.
Yeah, Pedro Menendez should be very thankful. They've got a really spectacular coach. 2-time national champions for high school ball across the USA. And Bishop Gorman's a really great big private school out in Las Vegas. I even saw him on the QB1 show on Netflix from season 1 before, and he takes things seriously. And having him in the Northeast Florida area, having him here out of all parts of the country it's huge, And Pedro Menendez the last few years have been looking good as a team talent-wise, and they've been really starting to get it all together. And one of those things, too, is I know the former coach that's there that's now in Georgia, Kyle Skipper, it seemed like he was really getting the team, he was really getting things together. And I think Pedro last year could have had a they really could have gone far in the playoffs. But this year, with that's if the season still goes on. I believe Coach Sanchez will really get something going. Maybe get some of these players like into really good shape because he's a very serious coach. I feel like he would get this team maybe far in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, Mendez has been slowly growing into a solid team up in St. Johns County. 2 years ago, they got their first win over St. Augustine. They're slowly building themselves up. They haven't broken through yet. But I'm guessing that's why they went out and tried to go for the home run higher right out of the gate. And the biggest question I'm wondering is just how on earth did the public school in St. Johns County find a way to pay this guy? Because he probably was making six figures over at Bishop Gorman, and he wasn't fired. He left that job back in January, so all this time, and now he ends up over here at Pedro Mendez. He's not going to be. I know there's no way he's going to be working for $10,000 or $12,000 a year coaching salary on top of a teaching job. That's hardly going to be enough. I'm wondering how much the Booster Club went and got money to get this guy over to Mendez.
Yeah, I'm not even sure either because I know it's been a big topic, and I'm not going to get too deep into it. But in the state of Florida, it's talked about coaches' pay and stuff like that, and apparently it's just been a big issue for a while. And that's part of the reason why some of those coaches are now in Georgia or whatever, which it's been getting very it's been growing a lot, especially within the last season of football. Even in the off season, they're just moving. But it's still a big honor to have him, though, because he's a great coach and he knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, because like in Georgia, you can basically make more money to be a coordinator and have less responsibility than you would make as a head coach in most counties in Florida.
And it's sad too because Florida's literally number one or number two in the whole country for talent overall, because it's always been the big debate between them and Texas. But pays just you gotta be getting at least paid decently, someone get at least something good enough, and if not, then a little bit more than good enough for having that many responsibilities, especially if you're going to be a teacher too at the school or whatever. No, it's a big deal
for sure. And also we probably talked a little bit about it before the show about just the state of Jacksonville in general with the public schools. For what I noticed, for one, Robert E. Lee, they lost a 3-star safety to Oakleaf with Larry Smith. Robert Simmons transferred to Sandalwood. Kobe Bates transferred to Oakleaf. And that's a lot of talent loss for a public school that has been the Gateway Conference champs for the last 2 years, I believe.
I think it might have been the last 3 years. I'm sure. I actually don't remember. I don't have any archive results anywhere about who won Gateway and stuff, but that is just. I think there's been a lot of transfers in the off season going to other public schools in Duval or outside the county, but I was going to say Lee's definitely one of the best schools in the Duval County, Northeast Florida area for football.
And right now, the question remains, if we do have a season, just how depleted is their roster? And then, not just them, there's still obviously questions with like Reball and Reigns. It seemed like Reball, I thought, was going to make a jump last year. It didn't. It seemed like they pretty much stayed about where they'd been the last few years. Reigns dropped off of where they were last year. And just by looking on paper, there's not as much talent as there was about 3 or 4 years ago when it comes to Reigns. I keep hearing First Coast get mentioned, but I guess we'll just wait and see with them. Sandalwood, obviously talented, but they've never proven that they can go far. And then, obviously, you can look at a school like Terry Parker or a school like Westside. Both of them seem to be growing with homegrown talent, but at some point, when you get deep in the playoffs, are you going to have enough with just your homegrown talent to be able to compete with the larger schools that are basically pulling the top players from much larger talent pools like someone like Orlando Jones, who would be probably a top 3 team over in Orange County.
Right, and that's the thing too. It's all like I told you. It's going to depend on how. What's more important now is how the coronavirus is affecting the area too. Because, like I told you, Jacksonville doesn't have it as bad as some of these other counties down like South Florida. So I believe we can still have a football season. But like I told you, it's just everything's just so questionable now. You don't know what's going to happen, and then you got players who are already ready to head to another school or somewhere else. It's just everything's very questionable, and the first day of legit practice, I believe, is in about a month now. That's just it all just depends on the whole virus thing. And I told you, I really hope we have a football season in most of the state, if not the whole state. So, I mean, we just need sports back in general.
I did see that Jacksonville actually now mandating face masks, which hopefully that reduces the spread enough to be able to move towards the next phase of opening schools. I do see a lot of major counties have been doing that. It remains to be seen how much help it'll do, but it's something. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to see how it goes. But well, like I said, I hope it happens. But as of now, I wouldn't count Jacksonville being, Duval County or all the surrounding counties canceling like the season or anything like that. But I'm just not sure about Broward and Miami-Dade, where the big talent is. I don't know about them right now. It's looking bad for them, I think. And I think if that's the case and they still have a football season, looks like there won't be any Miami schools winning state this year, which means it can be all out for the North Florida schools for sure.
That would be actually very interesting to see. The only thing that I'm feeling right now is, my feeling is, if the FHA does allow football to happen, they might cancel the idea of having playoffs if they can't get all the counties involved. Which
I would still hope for playoffs they still happen no matter what. I just don't know about the schools. Like, if they end up canceling their season and whoever's in their district, I think the teams that are still in their district, like especially further up north, like north of the county, like in the regions and stuff, it'll be considered an automatic win, I thought.
Well,
that's if they play during the season.
That would, I don't know. It's just it's obviously too tough to figure out, especially this early. We already seen one school that can cancel their season with Admiral Fairgott over in the Tampa Bay area. So we'll have to see just where this goes. Like, do others follow suit, or will the number be very low to the point that we can just go forward?
Yeah, and you gotta weigh the options there. I think, in my opinion, I think they jumped the gun too early. Because I see the reason why they did and why they did. Now I get why, because they're a boarding school in the state of Florida too, so they get people from all out of state also. So
international boarding school, in fact.
Oh yeah, so I get that, but it's only we're at the end of June. We still got a month left, and people really don't start making those decisions till like early August anyway. From what I can see, so. I don't know. I think they just jumped the gun too early, in my opinion.
The guest that I had on last show, he actually mentioned with Brevard County that the first official date for padded practice right now for the county is scheduled to be, I believe, like it was supposed to be like 5 days before kickoff classics.
Oh, jeez, really?
Yeah. So if you have cases like that across the board, even if we do have a season, there's going to be a lot of injuries right off the gate across the state, just because if you only get a few days of padded practice after months of inactivity, you're going to see a lot of injuries piling up right at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and it needs to be 2 or 3 weeks before kickoff classics, like they've done before. It needs to still be like that. Because, that would be insane if that's the case, because they won't be prepared in time for the preseason game, I feel like.
I could see a possibility, actually, where they consider moving up some games, like